Dear students, I welcome you on behalf of Thakur Vidya Mandir High School and Junior College for the remote teaching learning process, where our motto is let learning be a joy and teaching a pleasure.
Let us today move towards part 11th, which is the last part of chapter number 2, Sources of Corporate Finance, wherein today we are going to understand about financial institutions and trade credit. Let us move towards the 11th question, wherein we are going to understand the role of financial institutions in corporate finance. Besides commercial banks, even financial institutions have an important role to play in corporate finance. In order to bring about rapid industrial development in the country, the first industrial policy was declared by the Government of India in the year 1948. However, the development of industries to a great extent depends on the availability of finance. That is why the central and the state governments established special financial institutions to provide finance to industries. These institutions provide medium and long-term finance to industries. These institutions have become important not only for the new companies but also for the ongoing concerns that is already established companies. So financial institutions have started gaining a very big importance in today's modern corporate finance. Let us now move towards the classification of financial institutions. Financial institutions are basically divided into four categories. The first one is development banks. Development banks are specialized financial institutions who provide medium and long-term finance to industrial and agricultural sector. They provide finance to both private as well as public sector. There are totally five types of development banks, that is IDBI, and the full form of the same is Industrial Development Bank of India. The second is IFCI, that is Industrial Finance Corporation of India Limited. The third one is ICICI, that is Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India. The fourth type of development bank is SIDBI, that is Small Industries Development Bank of India. And lastly, it is IRBI, that is Industrial Reconstruction Bank of India. So, these are the five development banks which are functioning in our country. The second category is financial institutions. It consists of RCTC, that is Risk Capital and Technology Finance Corporation Limited. The second one is TDICI, that is Technology Development and Information Company of India Limited. The third one is TFCI, that is Tourism Finance Corporation of India Limited. Let us now move towards the third one, which is investment institutions. As the word indicates, investment, that means these institutions are basically meant only for investment purpose, which means that they cater to individual needs as well as to company needs. It includes LIC, that is Life Insurance Corporation of India, UTI, that is Unit Trust of India, GIC, that is General Insurance Corporation of India. And the last category is state level institutions. State level institutions are those institutions which are established at the state level to cater to the needs of the state. Within the state, if any industries require funds, in that case they can approach to the state level institutions. It includes SFC, that is State Finance Corporations, and SIDC, that is State Industrial Development Corporation. So with this we have done with the four categories of financial institutions in India. Dear children, the full forms of all these institutions will appear in the next slide. You can now check out with the full form of all the different types of financial institutions over here. As you can see, I have listed down all the four categories, which includes development banks with 5 types in it, financial institutions with 3 types, investment institutions with 3 types, and state level institutions with 2 types. Let us now understand the different ways or the different forms in which financial institutions provide assistance to corporate houses. It firstly provides medium term as well as long term lending facilities to the business organizations. Secondly, it subscribes, that is, invest money by purchasing shares and debentures of the joint stock companies. Thirdly, it also underwrites the issue of securities, that is, it guarantees to purchase the unsold securities of joint stock company. Fourthly, it lends money for various purposes. And lastly, it also acts as a guarantor for the companies whenever they raise term loans from other institutions. So, in this way, we understood that how financial institutions play a very important role in the growth and development of joint stock companies. So, with this, dear children, we have completed the 11th question, that is, role of financial institution in corporate finance. We started with the introduction, then we understood the classification with its full form, and then finally we understood the various ways or forms of financial assistance which is provided by the financial institutions. Let us now move towards the last question, that is the 12th question, that is, what is trade credit? This is the last question of this chapter, with which we are going to complete all the question and answers in this particular chapter. Trade credit is very important for raising finance in any business organization. None of the business organization can be run only on cash basis. Credit facilities do exist in all the business organizations, and all the business organizations need to provide credit facilities to its customers. Accordingly, credit is considered to be the soul of business. So even trade credit is considered to be one of the important sources of business finance. What do you mean by trade credit? Whenever the goods are delivered by the supplier to the customer and at that time the payment is not made, rather the payment is made by the customer after some time in the near future, then it is called as trade credit, which means that the goods are sold by the supplier but the customer does not make immediate payment in cash at that time and postpones the payment to a future date, then it is called as trade credit. Trade credit financing is considered to be one of the major source of short-term financing because in all the business organization, trade credit facilities are definitely available, and that is why it is a major source which lies within the organization itself. It basically results from credit sales of goods wherein the buyer has to make the payment at a future date to the seller, which means the payment is postponed to a later date. Manufacturers, wholesalers, and suppliers of goods or materials are called as the trade creditors because they provide credit facility to the business organizations. These trade creditors sell the goods on the basis of deferred payment, that is, future payment credit is extended by them, and they are doing this with an intention to increase their sales because if they do not provide credit facilities, then it would be difficult for them to increase their sales. So, with an intention to increase sales, every business organization provides credit facilities to its customers. This source of finance is considered to be a very easy kind of credit and it is obtained without signing any debt instrument. It is readily available as with you can discuss with your suppliers and accordingly they will be providing you the credit facilities as well as it is the cheapest method because no interest has to be paid on that. You can immediately avail this facility. The suppliers usually allow 30 days or more for making payment. Even the terms of the trade credit are not rigid, that is flexible. It can be changed after discussion with the suppliers. So suppliers and customers, they discuss among themselves, and the terms of the trade credit can be changed accordingly. And so the terms of the trade credit are not rigid, that is, they are very flexible. So with this we have completed even the 12th and the last question, that is, what is trade credit? Dear students, besides 12 questions, you are also supposed to learn three distinguish between from this chapter. The first one is shares and debentures. You can refer from your textbook. This distinguish has in total 10 points, but you can refer to any 7 to 8 points. The second distinguish to be learned is equity shares and preference shares. Again, even this distinguish has 11 points. So you can refer to once again any 7 to 8 points. The third distinguishes owned capital and borrowed capital. It has 7 points. Distinguish between carries 4 marks. So see to it that you learn at least 7 to 8 points and try to write at least 7 points to get full marks in that. So with this, we have completed chapter number 2, Sources of Corporate Finance, which is the most important chapter in your entire syllabus. This chapter consists of distinguish between questions, short answers, even justify questions would be asked, and even long answers. This chapter till last year it had the maximum weightage, but till now it is not informed, but definitely this chapter consists of major important questions. So see to it that you be very thorough with this chapter with each and every questions that have been discussed in the various parts.
Thank you, dear children, for your patience listening.